All right, video 4. Let's see where we can go on from this point. We just spoke about law, what the common law was, and we dropped down from dominion and those under God. Are those noticed by God? That's what dominion is. God and dominion, again, we just have to say it's an agreement. The true creator is non-agreement. Simple, simplicity is divinity. Okay. Now, as we speak and we further develop law, we'll go into an equity. In equity law, property is transferred via the conveyance of registered legal titles, commanding what is right and prohibiting what is wrong according to a defined agreement. Now, it looks like I just jumped into equity there, um, but those are the features of common law and the features that we've now ascertained as equity. Equity came from the law. Again, law was that which was a personal agreement made into the hierarchical system of the king holding absolute title to all land. And that was developed more through, I think it was 1086, through the Doomsday Book, which is the full accounting of every creepy little thing on earth, all the chattel of who hold what land interest and the parties that were subject to that land interest. And it was a full accounting or a full book that predetermined what each interest and how much interest each of those parties held, so that the king knew what you had and what you were responsible for to pay fees in, or what you were responsible for to protect. Okay. So law is commanding what is right and prohibiting what is wrong according to a defined agreement. An agreement is just God. Okay. Or as I said, law is God is law. Oh, and in fact, I'm going to say it right here. Law is also known as God, and God to which all titles are subject to, which grants and secures defined powers and duties to legal titles in order to establish obligations for and on behalf of each individual in perpetuity within a class term people. English law only deals with legal personages. It doesn't deal with the individual. It can't deal with the individual because you have dominion. It doesn't deal with your live being. It deals with land and gives rules of engagement upon that land to set up interest to which then you make an agreement. Therefore, now you overreach your dominion rights, because we're dealing with in avenues of legal personages, and legal personages are just perpetuity instruments. It's a way of creating a foundation. So when you say the monarchy, that is a complete settlement of what those duties and obligations are to be a monarchy. If you are the Prime Minister of the United States, those are set duties and obligations to perform, so that we know what they are, so that if we ever need them, or um, we ever need them to do something, or they're not doing something, we can say, point us where in that agreement they said that they were to perform. That's all they are. Everything in English law is legal personage. Get over it, get over the name game, all that kind of stuff. You have to have a legal personage in order to affect English law, because it doesn't deal with you as a live being. It deals with, again, interest to land and those agreements annexed to. So we go into English law, holding an interest in right of another. That's what it is. As I said, it's a hierarchical system, all land, and we're still speaking from 1066, and whereby all land was subject to a tenure, and that tenure was an agreement. Okay, and it's you're holding a land interest for the right of another, where the barons held in the right of the king, immediately in the king, but immediately the lords held on behalf of the king, and the villenas immediately, it's another tier down, in the right of the king, and the serfs held immediately, not immediately, but immediately in the right of the king, and the peasants, everyone held immediately, to which only the barons in common law held immediately in the right of the king. Again, it's top down. It's all based on a form to create a foundational principle that everyone's serving. That person is only serving the other to which then arrives in a complete agreement of what is God and what is law. Okay? I wrote here, a settled hierarchical system of land rights, dependent upon the status of a legal personage used against the type of interest available, according to the power and duty of the status. So legal personages, again, are just a establishment of agreements of duties and powers. You can even say it, prohibitions and limitations that belong to that legal personage in perpetuity. Perpetuity is a fiction. See, now we can even expand upon that. See, that's what the fiction is. English law is only dealing with fictions. It has to. It creates a base foundational for each legal personage to perform a duty and power subject to the entirety of the law. They fit within the cog. Okay? The law administrates rules over actions according to the interest held by each legal personage. Each legal personage is a status, and that status then has a right predominantly associated with a certain subject matter, and that subject matter then becomes the law that is governed, that creates the jurisdiction to which then finds remedy if that legal personage has a problem with either another of the like legal status, or of a lower right. So let's say you're a baron. You most likely wouldn't deal with a serf or a peasant or a villeina. You would deal with your lord, then the lord would then say, okay, well, now I got to deal with that villeina, to which then that villeina is going to deal with that serf. That's how it works. That's the what we call corporatocracy, that there is a hierarchical system of, CEO to CFOs to base managements, to branch managers, to territorial managers. It just, until you get down to the teller or whatever, to the worker. It's everyone's functioning for the benefit of the whole. Okay? And you're somewhere along the line making agreement to that whole. So no one is subject to English law. Oh, sorry. That is a true fact. You're not under English law. You are in agreement to be obligated to perform some duty or action within English law, but you're not under English law unless there's an agreement. The system looks at the agreement. It doesn't look at you. It looks at the agreement to which you're, and based on your actions, you're performing a certain agreement. Therefore, it creates an obligation. And just like the barons would be, against a baron, those would have a certain structure that they would create a community to discuss matters that would be relative to the king, because that's the only party they would deal with, that they were subject to which the barons would also then create a hierarchical system to make sure they're managing their lords properly. And that baron was called a curia regis. The curia regis is just that instrument, that a group of barons that then later on moved into the lords we call Parliament today, or our governments today. Governments are the tier down from the curia regis, which were the barons, who were the top management group that dealt with the king and also were in charge of managing their lords. Okay. It reads this way: no one subject to English law can hold a laudium title. It doesn't exist, because just for the very fact that I said it's a top tier system, there's always a hierarchical system that if you are holding land, then there's someone who's holding that entire interest in land as a core group, which is God, which is the law. If you're dealing within a legal personage, means that there's a hierarchical system. No matter what, you can't get out of it, because that's what the system is. And you just have to get that through your head, that is what it is. Just like, if you walked and you start wanting to be employee of a Walmart, well, Walmart is the system that you've agreed to. It is the entirety of the agreement by becoming an employment to Walmart. It has rules and obligations, to which then, based on your level of management within that hierarchical system, you have to perform certain duties, and you have certain duties and powers that form obligations that you must meet in order to continue to be hired under that banner. Okay. So Meaning no one individual belonging to society can ever hold land free from a higher interest than their own. Okay? The law is a mixture of pre-10 or AD 1066, we sort of said that, the Anglo-Saxon, German, Celtic, Viking, Dutch common law fused with the Norman and Roman civil law. That's what English law, civil law that you deal with in France or Quebec or I think, what's that state, Louisiana, um, Haiti, those kind of things. Those are civil law. They just took Roman law and they said, and they just work with that. That's, they didn't develop like the English law developed through a different structure of intermingling the common law that was before AD 1066 and then moved into land, whereby the civil law gives all the rights into the person, which is still a legal personage, but gives all the rights into the person. It doesn't give the rights into the land. Common law gives rights into the land. The civil law gives rights into the person. Okay? And everything evolves in that person. So that's where they still, potato, potato. It's still the same thing, but they're saying the rights don't land, and you don't, when you grab a land interest, you have the full rights over that interest, whereby English law is that when you grab you have a piece of land, the land holds that interest to which then you become subject to. It's just different. So the French developed, well, they didn't really develop, they just copy-pasted the Roman civil law. The English law didn't do that, but it takes attributes from it to form the rights to land. Okay. The common law after 1066 responded as issues arose concerning rights of tenancy to land. It's the evolution. Rights were first subject to a despotic monarchy in which all land is ceded back as divine ruler. That's the divine prerogative. Okay. As we already stated, the king had absolute or the fideicommissium to over all land. Everything is ceded back to the king. Everyone who held a legal right to land was never more than a tenant, subject to the rules of personal service to the monarchy. Uses to land. Okay, I want to stop right there because I just went into uses. And you're going to see we're going to bounce back and forth to which I've already spoke about, but I think it's instrumental in doing so that we can cultivate into our mind the basic foundations to everything as we move forward, where we're seeing where our power has always been and where we've given it away. Okay, I think we're moving to number 5. Look, let's go.